6 former administration officials last week wrote that open letter urging the administration to change course, to change strategy. Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. Every day it is time for us to agree.
Okay, so that's been going around, that clip around on the internet. It's obviously not a great answer to the question. It doesn't really shed much light on the situation in the administration, what they view about COVID. Will they be changing things up? But also, at this point, Harris isn't really known for necessarily doing the best in these interview type situations. That clip reminded a lot of people of cousin Greg from Succession testifying before Congress. Maybe a little bit of Michael Scott having to explain why his branch has been doing so well. You start a sentence and you don't necessarily know where it's gonna end. But obviously this is hardly the most important part of the Biden administration's response to this whole thing. So we're gonna launch into what evidence, if any, was provided about how the Biden administration is going to be changing gears to deal with COVID. But just really fast opportunity for you, Caroline. Any thoughts about Kamala Harris being dispatched in these sorts of situations very rarely seems to help the administration?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I do have sympathy with Kamala in this moment because, I don't know if this is happening to you, John, if you've been in an interview, maybe a Young Turks live show, and you just maybe were not listening to the question, didn't know they were gonna bring you in, and then you just like hear the last word of the question. So you take that word, I think it was time, and you're just like, time, we have the time. Yeah, so anyway, I have been there. I also am not the vice president of the United States. So there's a little difference there. But yeah, you're totally right. Like they keep putting Kamala into these situations and she does not rise to the level that is needed right now. But overall, as you mentioned earlier, like this does really capture what the strategy is right now. I don't think there's a more perfect soundbite out there of just like what's going on, what the response is, what the strategy is. So it's the response we deserve right now.
Yeah. Well, she did provide a little bit of information, although the White House did have to sort of respond almost in real time to what she was saying. So she said during that interview that 500 million COVID-19 tests were being prepared to ship to every American household soon. A White House official clarified the timetable, saying that they would be sent out later this month, and the contracts to create the tests were expected to be awarded over the next 2 weeks. So I was a little bit confused by that clarification. I found it to be unclarifying, because if in the next 2 weeks, like the contracts are to be determined, it better be on the short side of the next 2 weeks if you're then gonna produce the tests and to ship them out before the end of this month. It's already the 13th. How many weeks do they think are in January? But anyway, this does seem to me, I vaguely remember when, in response to Jen Psaki's really condescending response to a question about whether they'd be sending out free tests, they said they would be sending them out. And at that point, they said it would be around the end of January. So it doesn't seem yet like things are really slipping from that original timeline, even if now it certainly looks like it would have been helpful if these had come out like a month ago, considering all the new cases coming out every day.
Yeah, it's once again, it's just the whole strategy can be summed up in being caught on our back heels the whole time. And again, yeah, of course, Omicron is still surging, but like you said, this is something that we could have preempted, that the government could have preempted and gotten these even just a week earlier, a couple weeks earlier. And it's nice to know that as the public, we have leverage, as you said, Jen Psaki, like that. The backlash to that does seem like it spurned a lot of action on behalf of the government, which is good, but we don't want that at this point. We're 2 years into a pandemic. You'd think that at this point they would have some coherent strategy that we could fall behind rather than us having to set the parameters every single month, it seems like.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.